on now.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome to the Starch Lady. Today is April 28th, 2021, and you've got just the two of us. Come on, Gina, sing with me.
We can make it if we try.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about right there. That's great. So, well, we will just be the two of us, and I told her I was going to use her as a guinea pig. I'm going to try to go through a slide presentation that I've been working on for updating for my classes that I do all over town, and hopefully starting online. Look at me just jiggling all over the place. I'll have to get a groove on before I do that, but really excited. So I have to tell you, Gina, we just got through inhaling giant bowls full of mac and cheese made with that stretchy mozzarella cheese.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, game changer. Yeah, my son's and what'd you think of it? He really liked it.
Yeah.
And he's got a pile of that cheese sauce on a cold, giant baked potato he's eating over there right now. He didn't even want to heat up his potato. He's just got his cheese sauce on top. What'd you think of the cheese sauce, honey?
Excellent.
See? Yeah, pretty good. So my son's been a professional chef like his whole life. And he suggested that we put just a little bit of lemon, something acid in there. I don't remember seeing that in the recipe on the TikTok.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of lemon to offset it to give it kind of that little cheesy bite as well. So
I added a little more salt, and then my kids liked it.
Yeah, so I had to put more salt in it too today. Cheese is salty, and so we're putting a whole lot less salt than what a normal cheese would have.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not too concerned about it. And me and my lectures on electricity, we need it. And since we, I can calculate how much salt that your body needs for your body size. And so it's totally fine to be able to add just a little bit of salt for some electricity throughout the day. But I do it on top of the food. So that's one of the only recipes I've done of late that is actually adding the salt to the recipe, because it's key for, I think, that cheesy flavor. So, but I did it with, and I'm going to do a little video. It's 1 minute and 8 seconds long. And it is, I did a whole head of cauliflower, and it's a pretty good sized head. I steamed that, threw it in the blender with like a tablespoon of garlic powder, a tablespoon of onion powder. I only put a teaspoon of salt the first time. I had to add a little bit more because this was a huge head. It made a giant, huge pot of it. You'll see it on the video. And so garlic powder, onion powder, and then I put 1 cup of the tapioca starch, because it was such a huge head of cauliflower. And I blended that all up, and then I put it in the pot and started stirring it. And if you notice that it almost immediately starts thickening up and getting stretchy. And I found out that the hard way yesterday. I was at a client's house in Bernie, about 40 miles north of town, or north of here. And I was teaching it, and it just was not getting thick, and wasn't getting thick, and wasn't getting thick. I even had one of the children that was there visiting the grandmother, had her stirring it. And I went over and made some more tapioca starch and milk, and added another cup, thinking that I had done it wrong. And the heat wasn't on the stove. We had been just cooking and stirring away. And I go, oh, this is not going to be the funnest recipe if it takes an hour of stirring to get it to work, right? And as soon as we turned that heat on, I was like, blah, 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 done. They were eating it straight out of the pot. The kids were asking for more. She had actually put it over top of some homemade polenta. She had made some polenta right there, and they didn't even want it to wait to get thickened up so that it would be, she hadn't even waited for it to get thick, so where she could slice it and stuff like you do with polenta. And they were just eating it over, like, it looked like cream of polenta, I guess. And then this cheese sauce over the top, and it was so good. They really enjoyed it. So yeah, it's a game changer going to be at our house. So we're going to be using that a lot. So hi, Diane. We were just talking about my stretchy cheese sauce made out of cauliflower that Gina introduced us to last week, something she found on TikTok. If you saw that recipe on Facebook, I had to play it like 5 times just to get the recipe out of it because she talks so fast because you have to be so quick on TikTok. So anyways, but we're getting started. And Gina, go ahead and tell us about your week and your day and what you've been eating and any other new nifty recipes that you want to tantalize us with this week.
Well, speaking of polenta, tonight for dinner, I'm planning on making what Well Your World calls polenta pizza, but it's more like a casserole because you take the polenta and you put it in like a pie plate and you let it harden up, and then you put your pizza toppings on top. So I might do that cheese. I wasn't thinking about that, but I might put cheese on top too because that would be really good.
I am totally going to be using that cheese to make with my pizzas. It's that kind of stretchy mozzarella taste. So game changer for sure.
And then as for the week, everything's going really good. I'm down 2 more pounds this week. So this is my lowest weight in 14 years.
Oh, we're so proud of you.
And I'm really close. Let's see, I'm 16 pounds away from my lowest adult weight that I can remember. So
oh, that's wonderful. That's what I love to hear. How many more weeks until your anniversary?
We are at 17 days till our trip. So
okay. So you're getting there to your goal. She's been working on a goal to go on this trip with her husband. Now, is your husband noticing? I know he sees you every day, and it's really hard for sometimes family members to notice because they do see such a gradual decrease. Has he noticed?
He noticed some, but he noticed most because like yesterday I had to go shopping and get a size 16 short and a smaller bra too. So
well, there you go. If you ever need help in the bra department, I do sell the best bras on the planet through the pharmacy. And they're like a game changer. If I have the story right, a structural engineer husband, a guy who designs bridges for a living, learned how to support his wife without the dents in the shoulders and the underwires and stuff. So pretty cool. But all that is just really, really wonderful. We're really proud of you. I know it's really fun to run into people that you haven't seen for a while. And yesterday, in fact, I was out at my client's house I was talking about earlier, and their youngest son came home from traveling, and he came through the door and put his suitcases off to the side, and he, shook our hand and said hello. He's very polite, and he was looking at me kind of funny. And then he's talking to Dawn, my assistant, who's changing the filters on their water system. And I'm teaching this cooking class. And he's like, have I met you before? And Dawn says, yeah, I think you did. And then, because we do a lot of people in their family. And he says, I think it was at your brother so-and-so's house or something. And he's looking at me again. He says, you're the water lady, right? And it's like, yes. And he says, I was starting to think that how could it be possible? There's like 2 women who sell water because he didn't recognize me. He absolutely did not recognize me. I thought, how can there be 2 people called the water lady, So that was really fun. And I love running into people that haven't seen me for a while. And this road trip we do every year, changing filters and doing house calls for the blood and urine and stuff. Those people saw me last year. So what are they going to think this year when they see me? And I've got a couple more months left to really, I want to get into Wonderland before I leave. I really would love to. And so I've got like another 9-10 pounds to go. So, and hey, Diane, I see you over there. Diane and I got to have lunch this week on Friday. I went up to Austin and we had lunch at the Casa de Luz Village. And it is the most eclectic little health food, health life, yoga, meditation, kind of a Zen, kind of a village. And it's literally a village. You walk in across the street and you go through like this archway, and it's like you are not in Texas anymore, Toto, So it's pretty fun. So let's start with Diane Rowland. Let's move from Gina over to Diane Rowland, and then we'll get on over to Diane LeBeau. So Diane, what did you experience this week in life and McDougall
Well, I had a heart-to-heart with a fella I'm dating because we were on a trip for a week. I didn't plan well. I came home and my legs were so pitted that it was just horrible. I said, we're supposed to go on a 2-week trip. And in a couple of weeks, I said, can't do this again. You're not allowed to pick the snacks. That I've got to plan this completely differently.
Yeah.
He went and bought us a Yeti cooler so I can put some food in it to take with us.
Nice.
So I'm going to try to, I told him this weekend when he's here, we're going to sit down and write out what we're taking. And I'm picking the snacks out this time.
There you go. There you go.
I'm hoping.
One of our, I guess, most on the edge snacks that we do are the rice cakes that are in a tube. They're called rollers. They're usually on the top shelf at the grocery stores where they sell the regular rice cakes, which can be a little dry and boring, but these have different flavors and some of them have berries and all the sweetness is on the outside. So it fits all of the little categories for approved food as far as if you're doing the category in there, except for the part that it is calorically dense because it is a dried food. You know, it's like Rice Krispies kind of thing, but it's the rice cakes made into these little tubes. I know Beth absolutely has literally, I'm not joking, lived on rice cakes with her PB2 powder reconstituted on top when she's at like exhibits and stuff, because she'll be there all day and she can't really leave to go get food or anything. And so she's actually been able to live on those. But because if you are going to eat anything that's dry like that, you have to make sure that you're staying hydrated. And when you're traveling, especially on road trips, staying hydrated is not the funnest thing because you have to stop more often, but that's okay. If you're stopping every hour to 2 hours, I usually we can go about 2 hours. You're stopping every 2 hours and taking that potty break. That's going to keep your kidneys and everything else flowing and being good too. And you won't have that swelling. I'd rather have you stop more often than to go dehydrated and get that swelling because your body says, if you're not giving me enough fluid, I'm going to hang on to every drop you give me. And it just happens to pool in our calves and our ankles. And we come home looking like, you know, an elephant leg, you know? So we don't want that.
Yeah, it was uncomfortable and unattractive.
And that was not the point of the trip with the boyfriend.
No, totally was not the point.
That's right. Well, that's good. Tried any other new recipes this week?
I'm trying to keep it simple. When I start doing recipes, I get overwhelmed. So I'm just really trying to keep it simple. Simple
there you
stuff.
Go. Yeah, that's literally the go-to. Like my husband does a lot of potato and salad, and that keeps it really, really simple. I'm not sure if you were in at the beginning of the show when Gina and I were talking about that stretchy cheese recipe made out of the cauliflower. I am going to post on the group later today the video. It came out to 1 minute and 8 seconds. I'm getting a little bit better on shortening those down. I have a short attention span, and on YouTube, I noticed that the videos that I've posted that are short and sweet have way more views than the ones that are drawn out and they're 20, 30 minutes long. I mean, there's that one couple on YouTube. I just love them, the pieces, but it's like it takes them 20 minutes of ramping up just blah, blah, blah before they get to the point of what they're trying to, you know, their topic of their video is, and it drives me nuts. So I usually for them, and I apologize, but I usually skip ahead 20 to 25 minutes and hope that they're at the good part by then, because I just don't have that kind of time. So we're trying to get things, you know, streamed down a little bit. If I can stop talking and wiggling, this is on my lap, and every time I wiggle, it's like the video's going up and down, up and down. I apologize. So, all right. Well, Diane LeBeau, tell us about your week.
Well, I found a new product. It's by Bird's Eye, frozen meal. It's called Power Blend. It comes in different flavors, like Southwest flavor, Italian flavor. There might be more. It's everything in it is exactly how we eat, and there's no added oils.
Oh, do you have one you could show us? Can you grab one out of your fridge?
Oh, yeah, hang on.
Thank you. I love her shirt. She's got the McDougall shirt that says, "It's the food." Did you see that? It's not the, wait, it's not your food. Is that what it said? So we had a blast up there at Austin this week, and it was raining. So we jumped out of our car and got across the street with my cane as best as possible, because sitting in the car that long, my leg was not working right. I do good if I've been up for a while, but if I sit down like I am now, when I go to get up, it's going to be the first few steps are hard. And so it was raining. So my husband popped out the umbrella and we skedaddled into the village and forgot to pay the parking ticket, you know, to get the parking stub. So we came out and we had a nice little, how much was it? 20 bucks? Like a 20 buck ticket on our car. They were on it. It's like, I'm seeing that couple, they're walking away. They didn't go by the pay stand. So here's a ticket.
Yeah, I got a ticket one time too. And yeah, they're that way. So this is by Bird's Eye. And the series is called Power Blend.
And that's an Italian style.
So
awesome.
This one is Italian. Yeah, and it comes in different flavors.
So tell me what's in there.
Okay. Lentils. Great Northern beans. Zucchini. Zucchini orzo pasta.
Okay.
Chard, kale, spinach, vinegar. Oh, this one has olive oil. Wait a minute. No, the other one did not. So let me get the other one.
It sounds like it's pretty low on the list, but
yeah.
Jeff Novak would say it's on the list. Hey, Sam, welcome. She's grabbing something out of the freezer for us real quick. She found it's like a complete meal with beans and lentils and vegetables all in one thing, and she just has to heat it up. It's like super, super convenient.
Okay, here we go. So this is the one you want, the Southwest blend.
Okay.
So it has no added oils. So let me read what's in this one. Black beans, brown rice, red rice, quinoa, red bell peppers, lentil, zucchini orzo.
Wow.
Okay. Tomato paste, sugar, salt. Okay, so that's there. Cumin, serrano peppers, ancho peppers, garlic, lime juice. Looks like vinegar.
Does it have any bold letters at the bottom? I'm not familiar with the word orzo. Is that kind of a pasta rice thing?
Yeah, that's from Africa, orzo.
Orzo. So down
orzo is a pasta
letters that says
rice. Yeah, little orzo is a pasta made out of grains.
So on that package, can you flip it over and let me see if it's got the bold allergen thing for gluten? So if it doesn't have gluten in it, girl, I'm getting in the car and I'm going to go hire me some Bird's Eye packages. Let me see that. Can you flip it around to the camera? Now flip the other side. But I didn't know if it's wheat.
Some of those, I've seen those before. In fact, I have some. Some of those packages are like, yay, and they're great. But if you don't look, then you'll find the ones that are like, oops, nope, can't have that. So you can't just go, oh, and just get that one and that one and that one and that one.
Yeah. Yeah, she said that the one had the oil, but the other one didn't.
This one here is clean.
Right.
Yeah, so does it have bold letters that says allergen, gluten, or anything on it?
I don't know.
Right underneath the recipe list, it would be bold letters.
No.
But I can check it when I go to the store too. But that sounds so easy, super, super easy. That's wonderful. Because that, those grains take the longest time, the lentils and stuff like that. I've actually made lentils in my rice cooker, and that is the fastest because the water boils so quickly when you're doing when you turn on the rice cooker and you put some water in there and you put in your lentils, it cooks super, super fast in the rice cooker. Hi, Lonnie, welcome.
Hi, thanks. I'm eating my breakfast, and I thought I'd have some company along with it. Thank you very much.
We talk with our mouths full. It's totally okay.
Okay.
Well, that's wonderful, Diane. Thank you for sharing that with us. She was just showing us the bird's eye mixes of like Southwest, where it's got lentils and beans and orzo pasta mixed with vegetables, and you just heat it up, and it's totally McDougal. One of them had a little bit of oil, the other one did not. And so just reading the labels, and I'm curious to find out if what the allergen list is on there, but we'll look at that. All right.
I also wonder about the sodium in that.
Oh yeah, we'd have to look at that too. So again, when we go back, just as a quick recap, your fat needs to be less than 20%. Your sodium needs to be less than 1 for 1. So if it's 100 calories, 100 milligrams of sodium. And then your sugar is 10%, any added sugars. So that's the easiest way to calculate that. And I'm not that great at math. So if there's something that's, 120 calories, I have to take it and say 10% is 12, double that to 24, and stick a decimal in the middle. So that's how I get there. And so if there's less than 2.4 grams of fat in that particular food, it's okay, McDougal wise. If it has less than 120 milligrams of sodium, or if it has less than 12 milligrams of overall sugar, and we don't want any added sugars. What you got there? That's your cheat sheet.
This is from Jeff Novak. It's a cheat sheet, so you don't have to do the math. So
okay.
You look down the column to the number of calories that it is, and then you go across, and it tells you the limit for fat, sodium, and sugar.
Okay, so look at one there for like 120. Did I do it right? Look at the row for 120.
For calories of 120.
Yeah.
There's 125. So
okay,
that's good enough. So the fat is 2.5.
Okay.
The sodium is 125, 1 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
Added sugars are 2.5.
All right, so that's and that's 125. So so the sugars is 20% also, not 10. Was the sugar the same as the fat?
The sugars are coming out the same as the fat. Yeah.
Okay, so he's got that for 20. I was thinking that the sugar was 10 and 0 on the added sugars. The regular sugars that are in a food are going to be natural.
Okay.
So
we don't worry about natural.
Yeah, as long as it's in that 10 to 20% category. So, all right, excellent. Got a couple more people joining us here. All right, let's jump over to Lonnie. Tell us about your week and tell us what you're munching on there.
Hello. Oh, geez. Did I just?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Just a second. Let me just get back. I was looking for that label reading paper that Jeff had sent out. Anyway, it's a 2021 label reading grid in case anybody wants it. It's right on. It should be on his section of the website that we can get into. So I just made some oatmeal, and it's kind of sweet and savory. I throw in kale and beans and some turmeric and pepper and banana and sometimes a date and some strawberries and 3 cups of oatmeal. And
that's a huge meal. So you did sweet and savory at the same time. I hadn't even thought about that. I do cook my oatmeal quite often with diced up cucumber or zucchini, and it just ends up tasting like apples are in there.
Cool.
But you've got beans and all kinds of goodies going on in there. That sounds great.
Yeah. I don't cook it. I'm I microwave the kale, and I also microwave the oatmeal. It comes out of the fridge. I have it. I make about 6 cups of oatmeal every week with 16 cups of water, and do it overnight. So if I ever if I look in the fridge and I see that I'm running out, then I can either do it overnight, or if I'm early enough during the day, I can do it. It can sit on the it could sit on the stove without any heat on it, of course, because it comes from the hot water that's been boiled up, and so it'll just sit until, I don't know, 7-8 hours, and then I just put it in the fridge.
Gotcha.
Actually, it's Oat Groats. That's why it takes so long.
Oh yeah. Now we've been seeing a lot of people doing overnight oats, where they take the rolled oats and put all their stuff together in a jar with the unsweetened almond milk or something like that, and let it sit at night, and they just grab a jar and run off to work in the morning. But you just said Oat Groats, and that takes me back to Gina. Gina's been eating Oat Groats like all day yesterday and today, and I told her, prepare yourself. She might go into space, but she was going to have a rocket explosion at some point if you're not used to eating whole grains like that. But how are you surviving so far, Gina?
I had how you put it earlier, a nice elimination this morning. And
elimination
tomorrow morning. I'm not running to the bathroom.
Yeah, this is a little the lady that I went to see last week.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she has like this whole nutrition thing that I'm looking into.
So,
somebody's got their mic open.
Yeah, we got a new guy on here. Thank you. We've got an iPhone. I don't have a name on it, but whose iPhone just next to Lonnie?
That's me, Dr. Rose.
Hi.
John Robertson. How are you?
Good. Hey, how are you?
Doing well.
Our famous celebrity visitor today.
Uh-oh. Here you go.
Hey, so I got to meet John last week and got to talking to him about the McDougall program and eating whole food, plant-based, and eliminating, let's see, this is a test, John. What are the 3 things I told you that we needed to eliminate from your diet?
Oh, and now you're going to put me on the spot.
I am. Hey, if you're not going to grace us with your lovely face, we're going to have to just pick on you, see?
I'm actually here with a client right now, and I was just going to listen in to see just what was going on.
All right, so I'll give you a hint. The first one was no.
Yeah, sugars, right?
Well, that wasn't even on the list. We're going no meat, no
dairy, yeah,
and no oils. So Dr. McDougall will tell you if you have to put a little bit of brown sugar or whatever on your oatmeal to get it in you, he's totally okay with that. He needs that oatmeal in you. If you need to put a little salt on your, air fried potatoes or your rice or something, he says, go for it. And you and I have had the conversation about the need for electricity anyway, so I'm not opposed to that. I just want to calculate how much salt you're getting for the day and not have you exceed that. Okay. So it's based on body weight and grams. So
right now, it's not gonna make me weak right now. I'm ready a little weak.
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna move on. Are you eating anything there? Anything else you want to share with us before we let you listen in the background?
No, I'm just getting ready to get into the bath right now. So I will talk to you tomorrow.
Any improvements by changing your eating this week?
I tell you what was interesting is the water that I'm drinking. I'm urinating a lot more frequently. Is that supposed to happen or no?
Yes, and when you're drinking as often as you're supposed to, I want you to urinate once every 2 hours. And as your bladder remembers how big it's supposed to be, your bladder has an excellent muscle memory. And so, if you're not drinking, it'll shrink down to the size of a golf ball, but it's supposed to be the size of a grapefruit, which is about 500 cc's. If you've ever been in the hospital and measured it in a hat, you'll get those little hats in your toilet where you pee in and it measures up to 1,000 milligrams. And it can stretch to become a cantaloupe, which is about 1,000 cc's. And
Okay.
so we want you to be drinking 16. And for your body size, you were 6 foot what? Tell me again.
6'8".
Yeah, so he's 6'8". He's a retired professional basketball player, and he's got some height on him. And so based on that, he and his body size, his weight, he's able to have a little bit more water. And we calculate that based on body weight divided by 30 pounds. For every 30 pounds, it's 1 quart of water spread evenly throughout the day. We don't ever want anybody to just jump right on top of that. But starting out, I think we asked him to start out this week at 16 ounces every 2 hours just to get his body used to it. And then he can increase from there. So, and that's if he has no, or anybody who's doing that calculation, that's only if they have no heart issues and no kidney issues. If they had heart or kidney issues, I'd have to calculate it a little bit differently for them. So that's why I do these free phone consults for everybody in the group, that to figure out exactly where they're at in the program, answer their individual questions, and calculate out their water and their salt intake if that's a concern for their health issues. Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Feel free to pop in throughout the show today.
Okay.
All right. And we've talked to Diane and Lonnie and the other Diane and Gina. Samantha, I think you're up next.
I'm here.
You're cooking away?
Yeah, well, yeah, unfortunately,
Hey, Justin, come say hi to Sam.
unfortunately, I can't use my microwave and my air fryer at the same time. So it's like,
Hi, Sam.
Say hi to Justin.
I don't see Justin. There you are.
Howdy, how are you?
He's visiting. He's just finished up some schooling to become, what is it? What's your non-destructive testing, so he can go into like factories and wells and different things and test for leaks and things like that. And he's got a job offer in Massachusetts. I told him he had to get his Boston accent on, but he's going to be the guy up there in the Northeast saying y'all. So it's going to be great. So, okay, Sam, back to you.
Great. Well, I'm just going to have some potatoes and some cauliflower for lunch. And then I have the missionaries coming over tonight. So they're going to have potatoes and probably spinach.
There you go. At the beginning of the show, and I'm going to post it on the group as soon as we finish here, but it's a 1 and 8 minute video I just made at lunchtime where I made the cauliflower stretchy mozzarella cheese sauce, and we put it over pasta. Leroy put it over his potato. It would be great on top of spinach or something when you're doing it tonight. It was so easy. So easy.
You did that in the first 15 minutes that I missed?
We talked about it at the beginning. Justin and I inhaled it, so I had none to show you, but I have a 1 and 8 minute video that I'm going to post on the Facebook group later that shows you how to make it and talks about it. But it was literally a steamed head of cauliflower, a tablespoon of garlic powder, a tablespoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of pink salt, and Justin suggested putting in just a little bit of lime or zest of lime to give it a little bit of an acid balance, and a cup of tapioca starch. We blended it and then put it into the pot, and it stirred and just got all stretchy and gooey like instantly. It was absolutely perfect. So
where do you get tapioca starch at?
It's in the same aisle, in the baking aisle, and we got it in 2 different stores, 2 different HEBs, one here and one up by a client's house in Bernie yesterday. And it was in the baking aisle right next to the Bob's Red Mill section. And it said tapioca flour. And then in little letters, it says also known as tapioca starch. And it evidently is the game changer. You can use other starches, but it won't get that stretchy consistency like it would with the tapioca starch that gives it that stretchy, melty flavor for pizza or mac and cheese or potatoes or vegetables. It was delightful. It's going to be a regular, and it worked great because it's like a 50-50 because it's cauliflower going on top of whatever you're having that's starchy. So, all right, cool. All right.
Dr. Rowe, would you
Yes, go ahead.
post that recipe in the McDougall?
Next week.
Yes, I'll post it on the McDougall group too, the alumni group. I'll do it because it's only 1 minute and 8 seconds long. So
excellent.
It'll let me post it up there. All right. So Carolyn up in Canada, Carolyn, Canada, meet Lonnie, Canada.
Hello.
Where are you from?
I'm from Montreal.
Oh, okay, I'm in Alberta.
Because I haven't lived there for quite a while. But I grew up in Montreal.
Nice. So what's on the menu for you this week, Carolyn? Loving your food posts. You're getting quite professional with those.
I have brown rice and broccoli today, but I did the kind of the corn butter with the curry powder in it again.
That's
what I'm having as a sauce on that.
Yeah, that's a good one. We've been making butter. If you go into the grocery stores for the new people, they have corn butters made out of corn oil. Well, we're skipping the oil part, and we just take the kernel corn and blend it with different spices. And I've done it with as simple as just a little bit of garlic powder and blended corn, and it makes a lovely butter. And what was that you said you put in yours this time?
Curry, I think she said.
Curry?
Yeah, curry powder.
Little curry powder?
Yep.
So, yeah, that's a game changer. And I do tend to eat, and I've seen this commented a little bit this week. I think Tasha was talking about it, that in the beginning, we get to putting in a lot of sauces and using a lot of sauces. And we can also, sometimes when we're doing that, overeat because it is so good. And she noticed that in the amount of time that she's been doing this program on the Facebook group, she said that she's finding it less and less as she having to doctor things up because her taste buds have changed, and she's actually enjoying more the natural foods and stuff. So excuse me for a minute. My menfolk are leaving, and they're having a loud conversation over there. They're still having a loud conversation. Bye, guys. Bye. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, Christopher Carnrick, who is the alumni, he did an alumni presentation at the McDougall program. He's the one who alerted me to the corn butter.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's fun to be able to get into a few more things that are just flavorful. And then you get your starchy vegetable in there at the same time, because corn is a starchier vegetable. And like the client we was with yesterday, they made polenta, which is out of cornmeal. And it cooked up kind of like cream of wheat, but with cornmeal. And then once it sits in the refrigerator, it gets solid, and you can actually slice it like, polenta, That's how that's made. And he did, her son was there. When they heard I was going to be doing a little cooking demo, 3 of her grown children showed up. Well, 4 total of her grown children showed up. And the way that they ate as children, they're from Armenia, is they do a mashed garlic combination, and they drizzle this like water. It's like water, garlic, a little bit of something else he had in there. And he pours that over top of the polenta, and how delicious that was. So, all right, cool.
Sounds
all right.
nice.
So before I get started in this little presentation, I wanted to kind of use you guys as guinea pigs on for timing as well as information. Is there any other questions or comments people want to make before we get started into the little presentation?
Just wanted to make a comment about why I use Oat Groats. Like I had been eating rolled oats for many, many years, but I found out that my cholesterol was a little high. And so Brenda Davis and I think Michael Greger too both remarked on the fact that if you eat whole grains instead of rolled oats, then that could also bring down your cholesterol. So
the whole grain's always going to be better. It's kind of like white rice, brown rice, wild rice, right. Versus like, for example, that poha that I was talking about last week, which is the Indian version of what they called rolled rice. And it's flattened, or they call it flattened white or flattened brown rice. And they had an organic version at Alibaba's, the Indian store that we have here in San Antonio. and how delightful that has been. It's just chewy and super quick. Diane Rowland, that might be something you could take even on your trip if you can access hot water. And we got at one of the trucking stops, we got one of these little chargers that you can plug into your cigarette lighter, and it actually has prongs for regular 110 outlets, and it also has a USB for your phone and another little port. It's like 2 port phones, and it sits in a cup holder. And if that would be something that you could use to take like a little baby crock pot, maybe make some potatoes in the car, just, put a towel around it so you don't, bump your ankle against it or run it to the back seat so it's sitting down. But we could totally run our baby crock pot in our car on our road trips. That would be too easy. We take them on our train all the time, and to make sure it doesn't bounce around on any of the trains as it's stopping through the night and stuff, we plug it in and sit it in the little tiny oval sink, and it fits perfectly. And then we have hot oatmeal or, rice or potatoes or whatever we want, and it's ready to go the next day. And we can just munch on it all day when we want to access food that we should be having. Because with COVID, they've changed the menus on the train to be more like airplane food now, and everything's microwaved. And in order for me to get a proper meal, my husband has to donate his vegetables, and I have to give up my meat to him, and he gives me his vegetables, but then he doesn't have enough vegetables. But if he doesn't give me his vegetables, then I'm starving. So we have to make accommodations. So we do much better when we take our little crock pot and have our own potatoes, the little baby potatoes or something like that, so that I don't have to steal from my husband. So, okay.
That's a good idea.
Any other comments? Did we lose our basketball player? Did he disappear? Okay. All right. So I'm going to go over here to our screen share, and I'm going to try and pull up this presentation. I should have pulled it up earlier today. I apologize. It's just been one of those mornings, and we got so busy playing with the cheese sauce, I got a little distracted. But make sure I've got the right one and not the backup one. Okay, that's the one. All right, so this is a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm still finding slides that have audio hiding in it. So we're going to try and get through this without it messing up too many times. And you'll be my guinea pigs to see how it works. But let's see if I can go this way with it. Is that me? All right. So I'm modifying this to be McDougall friendly and talk about how to get started in the program and what the benefits are. So, when people start with me, they ask, how can I feel better and how can I feel young again? And then we start talking about, well, what are some of the ways that you could feel better? And is it exercise or eating less? We know that's not a good thing, because if you're eating less, you're hungry all the time. And so your body is actually, is it sick and tired and tired of being sick and tired? And we're going to talk about the first three, but dehydration is an issue, poor nutrition, obesity, weak immune system, chemicals, environmental factors. But we're going to focus on these top three here: dehydration, poor nutrition, and obesity. So because of the fact that your body is designed to heal itself, it is really important to think about how this got started. So way back in the 1800s, you had Claude Bernard, we had Anton Buchamp, we had Gunther Underline, we had Royal Raymond Rife, Virginia Livingston Wheeler, Gaston Nason, and even my favorite, Florence Nightingale, the Civil War nurse that put a whole new standard on hospitals and the cleanliness of hospitals. Now in the 1800s, she couldn't vote, but she could actually publish a book with her own name, which was also unheard of. And she talked about how she could actually test the acidity of the urine and tell how long the soldiers were going to live and how long it was going to take if they were going to die based on that acidity of the urine. Phenomenal work. And as my studies have taken me into studying urine, that's been a really neat thing. So when the body is healthy and the alkaline is in balance, germs can't get a full foothold. And you've heard it several times, and I don't know if I talk about it here, but the Nobel Prize was given to the researchers that proved that disease of any name could not survive in an alkaline environment. And that's where most of our vegetables come from. Louis Pasteur got his claim to fame because he was there around the time of Napoleon, and Napoleon wanted to control everything. And so by Napoleon having to have everybody come to him to get shots if they wanted to get well on that whole germ theory and immunization process and things, that's where we're at today. But it's interesting to me to note that at the end of Louis Pasteur's life, he admitted that the microbe was nothing and the terrain was everything. So it's like he spent his entire career living a lie because he knew that if the outside and inside of the body could stay clean, that it wouldn't be like flypaper attaching and collecting germs and bacteria. It would actually be more like flypaper that was rinsed clean and properly hydrated. And if you wash your hands, the germs can't stick around. Same for your insides. We were drinking, recommended to drink hot water for many, many years. That was kind of a big thing in the health industry, and everybody was putting lemon into it. And just recently, one of my clients found a quote from an Asian woman who said that, you don't wash your hands with lemon, so drink water. This one's kind of going off whack here. I'm going to start this one back a little bit here. I tell people that cancer is like Charlotte's Web, and when it catches an invader, it encompasses it into the tomb. But if they remove surgically the tumor, knowing that the fluids of the blood were circulating through it from head to toe just 3 minutes before, they really haven't changed the condition of the person's health unless they change the diet from that point forward, because they've removed the garbage can that's actually collecting it. Robert Wright says that there's no money in a cure for cancer, because why would they want to advertise something as simple as eating vegetables and starches for you to get well? They're not going to make any money doing that. Mm-hmm. So I have this poster at the gun show every month when we're there. It's called Weapons of Mass Destruction, and it was shared to us by the Holistic Code. But look at that. It's got everything on there you can imagine that is processed, refined carbohydrates and sugars, not the whole foods. You don't see any potatoes. You don't see any whole grain rices or rolled oats in there. That's just all the junk food that a lot of people just live on. Soda is literally the real weapon of mass destruction in your fork. What you're putting on your fork and what you're drinking, we're getting so much impurities and bacteria and everything. We're going to talk about bacteria a little bit later here in the program, but that's just, just common sense at this point. When we do the urine testing, it's actually funny that the chart that we put our numeric calculations there when we're analyzing the urine, the first calculation is C.S, and it stands for common sense. All right. Hamburgers, French fries, white, tan, brown, yellow foods. This is our youngest son at his 11th birthday. Look at the size of that pizza, and they are even bigger than that. That's only 48 inches. They actually make them up to 52 from Big Lou's here in Texas. And it's these kind of foods that may be fun to eat, but where has it gotten us in our health? Where have we benefited from eating this way in any shape or form? This was fun. I actually had to pay the author of this one, this Marnie Bukel. I had to reach out and pay them to be able to use this in my slideshow. And because I didn't want to have to, he gets royalties. So that was great. But I love it. It says, we've run every test we could think of, and the results show you're out of money. Mm-hmm. Is that just not the truth or what? They're not going to tell you how easy it is. We were talking to the gentleman yesterday who was a pharmaceutical rep, and he explained the whole process of how the doctors make money. We were talking about this on our earlier show this morning when people were talking about garlic. If you can still smell yourself, and still think you need deodorant, you're still acidic. So when you cut things out of your life and try to get healthy and things, if you're still eating acidic things like coffee and soda and alcohol, things like that, meat, dairy, or anything like that, you're still going to carry a body odor. Diet soda is even worse than regular soda, if anybody has not studied that before, but the phosphoric acid is right next to battery acid on the pH scale. Mm-hmm. And it goes even further down than that. Several women's magazines several years ago posted about the water cure and losing weight, drinking water, and just by getting properly hydrated in general. I mean, those movie stars in Hollywood have beautiful soft skin because they are drinking water. They're staying hydrated to keep those pores and everything moist. So that's a good one to consider. This is interesting, looking at the different things. The number one cost expense in health is antacids. That is the number one seller in pharmaceuticals is antacids. And if you look at diet soda, it starts out at 2.5, coffee's 2.1 to 3.0, Gatorade 2.7. But these things go to like a negative 18 to 25 after you consume them. So the pH changes once it's in your body. So let me think here if this is going to let me change slides now. Why is it not letting me change slides? There we go. All right, the number one cause of daytime fatigue, headaches, muddled thinking, short-term memory, simple math confusion, difficulty verbalizing, focusing on a computer or book, lightheadedness, all of these, cold hands and cold feet, anxiety, irritability. What do you think they're caused from? Depression, sugar cravings.
Dehydration.
Absolutely, they're caused by dehydration. You get a little bit more dehydrated, you're talking about acid reflux, asthma, allergies, hypertension, eczema, rashes, all the way down to morbid obesity, heart disease, and cancer from dehydration. If you think about what causes cancer, think of it like, you know, a disease that like yeast or something that's growing and getting out of hand. And if you're keeping your body hydrated so those things can't stick around, you're way ahead of the game, way ahead of the game. And if you've never known anybody that has fibromyalgia, see, that's one of those ones that's got this sound going on. I don't know if you can hear that. Probably not because it's in the speaker itself. But they're reabsorbing their own uric acid, and it's actually causing a burning sensation in their tissues and organs. Just like chickens. Chickens don't pee. They have a loose stool, but they do not pee. They have no way to eliminate, so they're always reabsorbing their uric acid and juicy and tender, if you want to call it that. They've marinated themselves. Dr. Batmanalaj, the Iranian doctor that was in prison so that they would have somebody in the prisons that take care of the prisoners, found that from just using water from the water fountain in the hall, he was able to help reverse so many conditions of health, starting from heartburn, angina, cholesterol, arthritis, migraines, colitis, high blood pressure. In fact, what is high blood pressure? Instead of prescribing a statin drug to lower the blood pressure, which is basically a blood thinner and some other nasty things mixed in there, why aren't they just putting their arm around their patient and saying, sweetheart, you're dehydrated. You just need to go home and drink more water, and calculating again that 1 quart of water for every 30 pounds of body weight being a goal. That's where they should start. They should just say, you're not drinking enough water. You need to go home and drink water in order to get your blood the proper thickness evenly throughout the day to circulate from head to toe once every 3 minutes. Diabetes, that's another issue of onset diabetes is high dehydration like this. Bananas is a good illustration of sugar rot and decay. The older the banana gets, the more speckly and more sugar volume it gets to, from, you know, being like firm enough you can almost, you know, saute the banana in the beginning to being able to just whip it with a fork and use it for like a syrup at the end. And that's an illustration of rot and decay. We could talk on a blue note about, you know, Viagra and all the other medications. I mean, do they think that it only goes to that part of their body? But what else is it increasing circulation to, putting people at risk for heart attack and brain hemorrhages and things like that because of the increase in blood flow and vein volume. Histamines and allergies. I mean, all of these things are things that we can correct with water. Water and salt can prevent and reverse asthma. Just a little pinch of salt under your tongue and a glass of water will abate an asthma attack just like that. So I have people do that first, wait 30 minutes. If they're still having trouble, do it again. The third time at the hour mark, if they still have to do it, go ahead and take their inhaler. But every single one of my breathing issue clients has told me repeatedly that they never have to reach for their inhaler because that little pinch of salt under their tongue and a glass of water will abate the asthma attack every time. So every disease is preventable and reversible, but not all patients are, because they're not willing to make those changes. They're not willing to make those corrections. Or I've literally had people tell me they'd rather die than give up their coffee. I've had people tell me they'd rather die than give up their meat. And they have to be careful what they're wishing for. So it's like a little bit of kerosene being thrown on a little tiny fire. It would grow out of control. Even with the foods that we have, like at birthdays, they'll say, oh, I'm just gonna have a little bit of birthday cake. And if they've got a really high disease and they're in a really bad place, I ask them not to even do that. It's that little piece of cake adding, you know, kerosene to the fire is not worth the taste or the socialization. Do something else. Put an apple with a candle in it. Do something that is of health benefit and more important than that piece of cake. When did the cake become so important? When did that donut become stronger and more powerful than we were, you know, as human beings? So we talk about how fat is saving our life because fat actually encompasses the acids that we consume faster than our bodies can actually assimilate them. And this is actually an illustration of a 5-pound blob of fat. So for you that have lost only 5 pounds, or you want to lose another 5 pounds, visualize what she's holding there. That is a 5-pound illustration of fat. And a 1 pound fat we talked about last week is like 4 sticks of butter, which is about the size of her hand up towards the top there. So don't get discouraged when you only have a little bit of weight to that you've lost, or that you know, don't get frustrated about, you know, how long it takes to lose 5 pounds. There's so much involved as far as like, look at the size of that volume. Where are you going to put it? So obesity has grown to be the second largest cause of preventable deaths over alcohol, war, guns, drugs, and automobile wrecks and accidents combined. And that's from the Center of Disease and Control, the CDC. Underweight is also an issue, and I'll go back to that. It's trying to talk to me in the background. Again, I don't think you can hear it, but if I can go back to it. If you're underweight, it's usually a sign of acidity too, if you've gone too far in the other direction, unhealthily. Now, we can get down to these lower weights like Beth and Caroline and such, where we're able to work on our health at this point because our body has released the fat that was encompassing for our health benefit. So this is me when I first started out. Notice I'm wearing glasses and dyeing my hair blonde. And those are things that have all gone away. I have 20/20 vision now. I used to have to put my glasses on to go to the bathroom, and now I don't wear glasses. And I'm going to get my driver's license because I turned 60 in June, and I have to get a new license, and I'm going to be able to get that Class A vision restriction taken off of my driver's license. And I don't have to dye my hair anymore. I've also gotten rid of acid reflux, indigestion, heartburn, migraines, arthritis. I can shake hands again. I used to just hold my books at church and not let anybody shake my hands. But my biggest claim to fame is getting rid of my own breast cancer. And after 3.5 months of eating healthy whole food plants, I was able to have an exam, and they extensively scanned and found no evidence, normal breast tissue. This is right off my radiological report, not identified on today's examination despite extensive scanning. To me, that is just the most incredible thing, to be able to do something so simple and delicious and regain my health and be here for my family, to me, which is priceless. This started my journey back in 2009 when they did a hysterectomy because they found a tumor the size of a golf ball on my uterus. And it's been, I tell people now I'm a girl with a microscope and I'm not afraid to use it. So that's kind of how that works. So I tell people what's in your blood, and that's why I specialize in that. And unlike regular allopathic testing where they have the tubes and tubes that they take out of your arm, You notice that yellow jelly jam in the bottom tip there that they spin up into the blood like a preservative, and it coagulates the blood. And so by the time it gets to the microscope, it doesn't even look the same. So I'm taking it straight from their finger and putting it under the microscope. And we're actually still seeing the blood as it's live, where it thinks it's still carrying oxygen, and noticing the shape and form and condition of the blood cells, as well as the plasma and everything that's inside of it. This is healthy phase contrast images of blood, compliments of my friend Kim in Norway that I do some extensive studying with. And live blood on the left, where it's just round and smooth. The dark blood vessels, dark blood patterns on the right with the black lines running through it. Absolutely no white in there whatsoever. This is a 70-year-old woman that I studied back several years ago, and she was told she only had 90 days left to live and was going into hospice. I got her brought to my clinic just before she was going into hospice, and her blood was full of these crystals and mutations and parasites and yeast and bacteria. And her dry blood, remember, it was supposed to be just red with black lines, but this is so white, full of polymerized protein petals, and it's raised up like spackle on a wall. It's the multiple myeloma, her actual diagnosis is excessive protein cancer in the blood. And we were able to, in just 2 weeks, change her blood from this mess on the top to this improvement on the bottom. Now, which would you rather have making your tissue and organs? You know, mutated, crystalled. I mean, look at the root word of polymerized, poly meaning plastic, like polymers and things like that become plastic and sticky. Gluten will also mimic this, by the way, your wheat, rye, and barley. And so this was huge for her. And her doctors didn't understand why she was completely cured when they told her that her disease was incurable and that she was going to die, put her affairs in order. She had 90 days left and was going into hospice. No such luck. At 3.5 years, she took me to California to celebrate. And she did actually die at about 5 years later, but it was from a complete freak accident, had totally nothing related to her disease. She actually fell and hit her head and had complications from that, but it had nothing to do with her disease. And we were just such great friends. So this here is, again, unhealthy blood on the left, and that was taken in October 7th, 2011. I was doing a study with some people from Overeaters Anonymous. This gentleman, just by changing his water, his blood improved within 7 days. Look how much better that is. This one here is my husband with protein damage, linkage here, sugar damage here, yeast and bacteria. And these white puddles here, again, more of those polymerized protein puddles in the center represent somebody who may have been clinically diagnosed with colon cancer. If it was just one single circle in the middle, it could be reproductive issues like prostate and things like that. Now, his mother died from colon and lung cancer. Here's his blood just 30 days later after incorporating a whole food plant-based diet. Now, this was back in about 2013, but he went a little backwards. And so him coming back into the program here this January, these last 4 months has been phenomenal. Sugar damage here from somebody drinking Mountain Dew during finals, secondhand smoke with these little black fuzzy patches, and a 1-year-old 3 weeks after visiting grandma and grandpa, and a bunch of rice cereal and goldfish cracker damage on the blood cells behind there. This big, huge blob of turquoise here is undigested protein, dairy. This is a dairy crystal here. This one over here, these black crystals right here were all through the blood, and that's unusable protein from animals. And it looks and responds in your body just as bad. Yellow's my favorite color, but I don't want to see it in blood. It actually represents people who've been clinically diagnosed with gout, arthritis, and inflammation. It's rotting animal protein. This see-through piece of glass right here, the shard right here, is representative of uric acid. Somebody who's so dehydrated, they're reabsorbing their own urine. Sugar crystals, platelet debris. There's just so many things that we can see in the blood that we don't want to see in the blood. I just want to see the round, smooth cells and the red with the black lines running through. Parasites, you do not want to see these on your slide. I had one lady on the right, when she saw those, she almost lost her lunch because It's just disturbing to see something crawling across the screen or see something long like this in the live blood after it dries. So this is JB, and he was 58 and retired city employee, lives in the county. He collects rocks and cars. And his blood, when he first started coming to me, he had a blood clot from his ankle to his groin, which left him in miserable, miserable pain. And every morning he'd wake up and ask his girlfriend if he was still alive. And his blood started out looking like this, all clumped together. The white blood cells were round and unable to do their job, just sitting there quivering. Just all kinds of stacking, crystals, mutations, infections, just so much. The dry blood had a lot of white in it. It had some free radical damage here. It's got inflammation and calcification here. It's got liver markers over here. It just gets worse. I mean, you don't need a degree like mine to know that these pictures do not look healthy at all. And so as we go through it, these liver markers here, I mean, it's like he's an 80-year-old man who's been drinking alcohol for meals, you know, but there's a lot of inflammation there. This was horrid. I actually sent him off to get a C-reactive protein test after he saw me to make sure what his level of inflammation in his heart was based on this image alone. But here's his blood just 6 months later. Look how it improved. It just got so much better. I mean, is that just gorgeous? There's a couple of parasites there, a little bit of yeast. But look how clean his dry blood is even. The white has gone down minimal compared to where it was. The liver markers have decreased. The alkalinity has gotten better. The immune system's gotten better. All of these things improve just by changing to a whole food plant-based diet. This was his before. Now my assistant, Max, he wanted me to use his actual name. JB was a made up name, but he's 17. He's a competitive wrestler. He's brilliant. He graduates in May with a bachelor's degree in kinesiology, and he's my lab technician and my administrative assistant. And here's his blood on March 31st. And it's all full of mutated sugar damage, acid damage. And he had already started to eat plant-based, so they weren't stuck together anymore, but he didn't like water at his house. And so he had been buying bottles of pineapple juice, apple juice, cranberry juice, all kinds of juices and drinking them in large quantities like water. And that amount of sugar had caused some damage to these cells. And so as we get through here, also right here, there's so much acid going on that these white lines in the dry blood, or these little cracks here that look like little spokes on a bicycle wheel, that's proof that his body's having to give up calcium and minerals from his body, bones and organs in order to buffer the amount of damage that amount of sugar and any other acids he's getting in his diet were causing. And so then we go on, and here's his blood just 2 weeks later. And here it is now. Look how beautiful that is. Now this round blue one over here is an environmental marker. And so that was there. Now this is what they call a fibrous thallus, or a city of garbage. It's where white blood cells go to die after they've filled up their like vacuum cleaner bag. They'll like scooch their way into this white clump right here, but we don't want it to get too large. We want the body to be able to eliminate it properly. But look how beautiful those cells are in the background. They're just gorgeous. Some are a little bit too big. There's a couple that are too small. And that is also some indications we need to work on a few things. But his dry blood improved dramatically from what it was. This is cute. This is from Dr. Young. It says, here's your blood on beef and beer, and here's your blood on super greens. Any questions? Talking about crypts of the small intestines that make our blood. If you put it in your mouth and you eat it or drink it or put it on your skin, I can guarantee you it's going to get into your blood. So we want that to be healthy. This is the Bristol stool chart that the medical community uses to have people identify what their stool looks like. And I'm here to tell you that every single one of these is wrong. And I'm telling you that because you're not a deer. We shouldn't be having deer pellets for elimination. And it should be longer than 5 to 6 inches long, which is what most of these describe and what people will say, you know, it's about this long and I have one about every 3 days or once a week or something like that. And I'm in pain for them. We want them to have an elimination that cleans out their large intestines, their colon, on a daily basis. And your colon is as long as you are tall. So if I'm 5'4.5", 5'5", I'm going to want to see 5 feet elimination every day, 5 feet, 5 inches of elimination. Hopefully within about an hour of each meal, I'm going to be releasing the leftover fiber and unused nutrients that my body consumed the day before. And that would be ideal. I have clients who come and they say, you know, I can't eat a salad. It goes right through me. And I said, well, you don't have a hole from your mouth to your rectum. So that would be literally physically impossible. So what it is when you eat a meal, it's kind of like a choo-choo train. And let's pretend that the bridge is out down here a mile. But if you add another car to the train, it pushes the train forward, and you add another car and it pushes the train forward. So eventually they're falling off the edge of the broken bridge down the road. So when they have that salad, it just so happens to be pushing the food out from the day before, probably within about 24 hours before. Now I'm going to go past this next slide really fast because it's really graphic. So everybody close your eyes or I'm going to blink. So I'm going to go fast. Okay, Mary Poppins. I got the group. I taught a class for the Mensa Society, which is the most brilliant people in IQ testing around. And I was in a room full of lawyers and doctors and scientists and just magnificent, brilliant people. And I was intimidated. I was nervous about teaching them until they walked into the room and I realized that 99% of them were obese, walking with canes, moving slowly. They were in pain. It's like they knew everything about the fields that they specialized in, but they had not learned about nutrition. So I had the room. They were at my disposal, I guess you could say, and we had fun. And Barbara Barrington Jones says that if you can get a person to laugh, they become teachable. So by the end of the class, I had them singing to the tune of Mary Poppins, I Love to Laugh. We were singing, I love to poop, long and lean and green. And I'm not kidding you, when the class was over, without any cue, they were walking out of the classroom and waving goodbye, and they were singing it. And you could hear them going out of the building, and they were all going into the elevator, still singing, I love to poop, long and lean and green. It was hilarious. So yeah, that's me. You're getting used to me by this point. So we talk about the colon, and this is kind of what it's looking like. Like I said, if you were to take this and stretch it all out, it'd be as long as you are tall. And we want to eliminate those leftover processes as they go. If they're having difficulty, I do have a lovely friend here in town that I recommend people to go to for hydrocolon therapy. It does require a prescription, and Dr. Ray is beautifully equipped to evaluate the situation in the person and make that recommendation for me, a medical doctor that I work with. So we talk about eliminating the foods that are brown. This is the way I used to eat, 25% white, tan, brown, yellow, 75% vegetables. And again, I was hungry and tired all the time. And then, but the meals were looking like this. You see how this is all vegetables, kale and salad, and a vegetable stuffed sandwich on some bread that's made out of, I think it was oat flour. This one here is at Cracker Barrel, where I've got just a little bit of grits over here, but I've got steamed vegetables here, salad here. I did not use oil, and I had tomato juice. So I was doing really good on this type of eating, but because this was not enough satiating starch, it was leaving me miserable. This at Jim's, I ordered a veggie omelet without the egg and without the cheese. They laugh at me, but that was a way to get it to ring up in their cash register, but me not to have the egg and the cheese. And again, all I had here for starch was this little teeny tiny 3 bites on a teaspoon. Can you spare it? Grits, not enough to satiate you. So the meals looked lovely, but I was tired and hungry all the time. This was probably the most beneficial, but I could only eat half of it. Didn't eat the sour cream and cheese, but they had beans and rice on corn tortillas with vegetables. So it was a veggie fajita plate, a lot of food at a restaurant here in Texas, but that's probably the only one that satisfied me, and it had enough that I was able to take it home because of, look, the beans and the rice. That's why we got the satiation out of that. So over here on the left is a picture of my husband and I on our train trip just last year. And look how big we are here. And here's my husband after only 30 pounds, and he's now lost 47. So I need to update that. And here's me. This is when I started the McDougall 12-day program. I was 220 pounds. I'd already lost 30 pounds, and now I'm down to 209. So it just keeps going in the right direction. But what a difference. And so that's when people start seeing and they start noticing that you look different. You know, I've got cute shoes on instead of my grandma sandals, you know, that kind of thing. So I'm excited for this year. My husband is wearing a 44-inch waist pant here, and he just bought 36 30s. This is compliments of Dr. McDougall's maximum weight loss and the starch solution. The difference between the two programs is the maximum weight loss, half your plate is healthy whole food starches and the other half is vegetables, whereas the starch solution is pretty much 70 to 90% starches with a little bit of vegetables. But the reason why forever and ever I will do the maximum weight loss version is because of my microscope. I can get, with all my clients and myself, I can still get beautiful, round, smooth, healthy live blood cells, active, moving white blood cells. I can still get red with black line, dry blood samples. Whereas if I put too much starches, I don't get quite the prettiness. It's still healthy blood, but I've found that as long as they've got that half vegetables, half starch going on, they can always go back for more and they can always add more starches if they need. But this makes the most beautiful blood ever. All right, so those are written by Dr. McDougall and his wife, Mary. This is Joy. She was our guest speaker here just a couple months ago. She had lost 150 pounds 4 years ago and has managed to keep it off. So, so proud of her, so proud of her. And she is doing great. This woman walks like a fiend. She doesn't, I don't know if she even drives, but she walks between 15 to 20 miles a day. She gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning and walks about half of that. And then she picks her kids up from school and they walk to the next by town where they have miniature golf or do something fun there and they walk home. So her kids are walking 6 to 10 miles a day and she's teaching them about that. So she's just been a great inspiration. We just love Joy when she visits our group and comments and posts pictures of her food on the group. She mostly posts pictures of her outings and things. She doesn't do a lot of her food. She says she keeps it super, super simple and there's nothing really good to photo, but I disagree. Joy, if you're watching this, I want to see your food because I know it's got to be delicious. All right, this is our very own Gina. Gina Hoot Hoot, you are a celebrity in my slideshow and she's already lost, what was this, 50 pounds, Gina? I think she's probably
at that point I'd lost 15. There's 15 between that picture.
Isn't that crazy that that much came off of your abdomen in that time frame? I mean, that was crazy. Now that was when you were doing the 2 exercises a day, correct?
Yes, I was doing 2 45-minute exercises per day, and then keeping on the diet, drinking my water, 5 to 6 quarts a day. And I'm still doing almost all that. I'm not doing 2 workouts per day anymore. I'm only doing 1. But, and since then I've lost, since March 28th, yeah, I've probably lost another 6 or 7 pounds.
Right. And she announced today that she's at the lowest adult weight she has had in her lifetime. So we're pretty excited for her. Okay. All right. Next one. This is Stormy. You can see her on YouTube, but look at her before and after pictures here and the improvements that she made in her life, having lost over 75 pounds. This is her husband having lost over 75 pounds. I mean, it doesn't even look like the same human being, you know? This gentleman here, Chuck Carroll, you can look him up. He's got some great YouTube videos. Again, whole food, plant-based, and he lost 280 pounds. This is High Carb Hannah. If anybody's been following High Carb Hannah for a while, I remember seeing her probably a good 10, 15 years ago, maybe, at least when I started with the plant-based eating back 13 years ago when I was bedridden and had nothing else to do. But she started out eating bananas. She used to eat 20 to 30 bananas a day and was not healthy and it didn't last. Once she started doing the McDougall starch solution type program with the 50-50 plates and things like that, that's when her claim to fame has really taken off and her YouTube channel is just blown up. She now is the author of several cookbooks and does some great recipes. If you want a delicious lentil meatloaf recipe, she's got one on YouTube. This is Andrew Flinders from Australia, who identified he had a food addiction, and he went off of food for an entire year and ate only potatoes. Not that he went off food because he still was eating potatoes, but he ate only potatoes for a year and lost 117 pounds to break his mindset over the addiction that food had over him. He's also written 2 books full of wonderful, fascinating potato recipes. His wife has been the author of a lot of those. He's been a guest on the McDougall program. And I love this. He says, don't wish, create. Don't hope, act. Don't dream, perform. Don't think, do. And that picture of him is actually at the McDougall in-house program before they had to start doing it online for COVID.
Excuse me a second, Dr. Rowe. His name is Andrew Taylor, I think.
Andrew
Spudfit Taylor. Calls himself Spudfit.
Flinders. Andrew Flinders Taylor. He's got his full name up there. Yes, it is.
Oh,
Andrew
Flinders. Okay. Yeah,
so
okay.
He's got his full name on there.
Right.
I didn't read that far.
yeah, he calls himself Spudfit.
Yeah, so you can go to spudfit.com and join his program. He's turned this into a career. It's been quite phenomenal to watch him and see the progress that he's made physically as well as mentally. He's no longer depressed. And I found that myself. This diet, since I've been following it, I can only count 2 days that I have had a debilitating depression that left me so that I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. And I used to have several days like that, to the point that right about that same time, I was actually given a referral to have an evaluation to see if there was something even more mentally capacitating with my depression. It was starting to really debilitate me. So I'm just thrilled because I'm happy all the time and I'm not hungry and I'm not tired. So that's pretty fun. All right, this is another one. She goes by Potato Wisdom on YouTube. She lost 100 pounds. But these are some of the foods we're eating. You might recognize some of these as your own meals because I went through our Facebook group and I saved some of my favorites. And we've got over 700 shared meals and recipes on the website now. We've got over 350 Mary's mini version shared recipes, everything from pasta, rice, polenta, mashed potatoes, you name it, we've got it going on. There's several ideas here. And I wanted to show this because I want people that are viewing this to see that you do not have to starve to enjoy losing weight. You can actually eat till you're satisfied. If you're hungry, go back and get more. This is some more food right here, different meals that we've had. If people say, but what about pizza? Well, here's a whole page full of pizza for you. And these are in fact all made on mashed potato crust, pizza crust. And we literally take the mashed potatoes and the seasonings and we smash it down and we bake it, flip it over, put our toppings on it, and we make these delightful pizzas.
What a great idea.
Yeah, and this one here is made in a deep dish silicone pan, so it actually came up on the side. But we're not missing anything here. If I were to stretch this, I think you can see it. Oh, it went back the other direction. Oop, nope, back up. Where'd it go? Get back there. I thought I could stretch it, but not in video mode, evidently. But I wanted you to see how beautiful that pizza is, and it doesn't have any cheese on it. It will in the future, because I'll be putting that cauliflower stretchy cheese that we made today that I was talking about on there. But we just put extra sauce on top, and it's enough taste, flavor, and moisture that we haven't had to worry about it. We got inspired by this pizza here that was made by Mike in our group, and he'd gotten it off of YouTube or something, and it's become kind of a group obsession. See how creative we can get with it. Here's some rice noodles and or pasta noodles that were healthy. Rice. Oh, there's Linda. Hey, welcome, Linda. We're doing a little presentation right now, so just hang tight and we'll interview you there here in a minute. Soups. I love this chickpea mock tuna salad made out of chickpeas. We do a lot of sushi. I think this is Carolyn's vegetable sushi plate. And I love that. It's like, I like to have that in the fridge as a go-to for snacks. And polenta up here in the top left, I think that might have been one of Gina's. More mock salad, but I just went through and found so many of these delicious meals that people are eating and being satisfied and losing weight. It's just phenomenal. Stuffed poblano peppers. I mean, you name it, we've got it going on. I'm obsessed with Asian long beans. It's like eating licorice, but healthy. And here's that cheese sauce like we made today. It looks just like that. Absolutely delightful. This gentleman here did a 60-day potato fast, and he lost 21 pounds. And this is him years later. I think this is 6 years later, showing how he's kept the weight off. And he did it because I believe he was trying to counter the part that people were going to the government and lobbying for the food pyramid and saying that potatoes were unhealthy and they caused diabetes and stuff like that. So he wanted to prove that that was not the case. And he actually brought his cholesterol down 67 points. His blood sugar came down. My husband's blood sugar went from I always get the numbers flipped. I don't do well with numbers, but it's like 376 or 346 or something like that. And it dropped down 83 points in just the first 20 days of him eating McDougall style, whole food, plant-based, mostly starches. Here's some more reports here about the satiation of, the most satiating food on the planet is potatoes. And it has all this documented research about how beneficial the potato is, not only for nutrition and nutrient content, but for the absolute satiating scores. And they give it a super high satiation score of 323 plus 51% compared to a croissant at 47, negative 17. So which one would you rather eat to get satiated? It's not going to be the croissant. That's like eating a cloud versus eating a beautiful, made yesterday, what do you call it? Resistant starch potato. I mean, that's where we get our obsession with potatoes on this program. There's so much research, and I could keep going slide after slide, but if you just go to drmcdougall.com, there's all kinds of free information in there. And if you have a subject that you want to research, just go there, click on the little search button, put it in there, and bam, it will pop up for you. All right, so we talk about what type of food fuel will give your cells the best benefit. We like to do 50% steamed and lightly cooked vegetables with our 50% white, tan, brown, or they could be considered mildly acidic, but our whole food starches is basically what we're looking for. So the plate now looks like this. So instead of like I had it before where I was hungry and tired all the time, now the plate is half starchy vegetables, which is your sweet potatoes, rice, beans, lentils, quinoa, oats, etc. And then your light cooked vegetables, raw, or salads on the other side of the plate. Much more satisfaction. You need to lightly steam or blanch, I prefer, your cruciferous vegetables. And you'll notice here there's like 15 of them. And these get their name cruciferous because of the cross-shaped blossom that they create on their plant structure. And the unique thing about them, and the reason why we want to blanch them and throw that water into the garden, do not drink or consume it, is because they contain what is called natural goitrogens, which disrupt your thyroid function, and oxalic acids, which disrupt your calcium absorption. So by blanching them, which means boil water, throw them in there for about 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, and pulling them out with a slotted spoon. Spinach doesn't have to be in there but a minute, but slot it, pull it out, and then continue to water saute or vegetable broth saute, or add it to your recipes, whatever you need to do. This is a shopping list compiled from the book called Sick and Tired by Dr. Young. And these are the most alkalizing foods. And the pH is represented by the number after the food, the number of the pH scale after you consume it. And if any of you are scientific enough to know or remember from high school that a pH scale goes from 0 to 14. So when we eat a cucumber and it jumps to 31.5, how did it get to 31.5? Well, our body is alkaline by design and acidic by function, by what we've forced it to become based on what we keep putting in our mouth that doesn't belong there. So when you eat certain foods, like before we talked about coffee and soda going to a negative 18 to negative 25, you can also compare it to a lemon. A lemon starts out at 2.0 on the pH scale, but when you consume a lemon, your body says, hey, this is my food, and it converts it to 9.9 on that same pH scale, which is phenomenal. It's like, who would have thought? Another one would be the cucumber. You see here, cucumbers start out at 3.0 on the pH scale outside the body, but when you consume it, they jump to 31.5. It's one of the most alkalizing foods that's the most accessible. I've seen black summer radishes at Whole Foods one time, and it was on the salad bar. They were not even for sale. One time I saw them at Natural Grocers, one time, and they're not like a radish like you're used to thinking of a red radish. They're actually not very tasty at all. So I just start right here on the list, and I eat a lot of cucumbers, the little baby ones or whatever. Like I said, I like to dice them up and cook them with my oatmeal, put cinnamon on it. Tastes like I've got apples in there. But all these different foods, you'll notice here that white beans are 12.1 after you eat them, lima beans 12.0. Now you don't see black beans and red beans on my chart. And the reason why you don't see black beans and red beans on my chart is because when you consume black beans and red beans, they still come in at a post-digestive alkaline ash of about a 2 to 3. So they're still too acidic for me. So I eat primarily, when I'm eating beans, I eat the white, lighter colored beans. Pinto beans would be close. They'd probably be in about the 8 range. Another one would be garbanzo beans, would probably be 8 or higher. So the lighter color the bean, the better it is for you as far as an alkalinity. And I'm all about the alkalinity to prevent and reverse disease. But all the way down here, these are just some wonderful foods that we can incorporate as our dietary shopping list.
Rosemary, will you go back right to the next one?
The cruciferous?
Yeah. Okay. So you were saying you have to do that to it?
You don't have to. I recommend it because I myself have thyroid disease, and I have to be very careful with my thyroid. I've had it since I was a new mother. And a lot of people, they say, well, I don't have any thyroid issues. I don't take any thyroid medication. I'm fine. Well, that's great. I suggest it as a preventative. You know, if we knew that smoking cigarettes cause cancer, but I don't have cancer now, would that mean that I would want to continue consuming something that causes lung cancer down the road, or throat cancer, or anything like that? So as a preventative, I like to recommend for all of my clients to blanch the cruciferous vegetables to prevent the goitrogen issues that causes the disruption with the thyroid, or the oxalic acids, which disrupts the calcium absorption for strong bones and things like that. We're eating our leafy greens to get calcium. We don't want to negate that by having consuming so much broccoli and kale and spinach and cauliflower. Like I'm going to be consuming lots of cauliflower coming up soon with this cheesy thing going on, that I don't want to make my calcium absorption be negated because I consume so many of the oxalic acids that kind of disrupted the ability for my body to use that calcium that I was trying to get by eating those same leafy greens. Does that make sense?
Okay, so blanch or steam.
Yes, and the steam, because the steam will come up and that water will drop down. Anytime you steam, especially greens, pay attention that when you even though they never touch the water has that green hue to it. That means that the water that's steaming on it is dripping down back into the steam basket. And so that water, again, you throw it out into the garden. Do not use it for vegetable broth. I don't put any of these vegetables in my frozen bag where I take the ends of my celery and carrots and zucchini and onions, and I throw them all in a freezer bag, and then I cook them up in the crock pot and make my own vegetable broth when I'm enthusiastic. They won't be part of that. They also smell. If you were to put the ends of, say, for example, broccoli or cauliflower into your frozen mix and make your vegetable broth, it's delicious tasting, but it smells off. It smells like it went bad, and it's not. So that's why we do that. Any other questions on that?
So blanch or steam or eat it raw.
You can eat it raw. It says right here, I say blanch, boil, blend, or eat raw. I should probably take that off of there because that does confuse a lot of people. Again, that's only for those occasional uses on people that do not have any signs of the thyroid disease or calcium absorption issues. But how would they know unless they had that tested, right? So I probably need to go in and modify that and just say here that I want it to be blanched or boiled or steamed, and then throw away the rest. That's how I'll need to modify that slide. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, so there's the shopping list. People always ask, where do we get our protein? And we get it from our green leafy vegetables. Here's spinach at 49%. When you compare that to animal protein, there's only 20%. And I use the illustration of holding up your hands. And let me go back to that one. Holding up your hands, and that's 100 calories of meat, but only 20% of it is usable. And that 20% came from what the cow got eating its grass. So skip the cow, because I spend my whole career trying to get this protein nonsense, unusable protein out of the blood and the crystals and mutations and disease that it causes. But there's so many things in there that have more protein than meat or cheese or dairy or any of that, including down here to lemons. Now, lemons are 13% protein. Who knew? Crazy sauce. Okay. So that's your other shopping list. We talk about T. Colin Campbell. You've heard about him, another like-minded health plant-based doctor. And he talks about how the decrease in people who derive 70% of their protein from animal products compared to people who derive just 5 have 17 times the death rate from heart disease. And the women are 5 times more likely to die from breast cancer. Animal protein is at the core of many chronic diseases, according to him in his book called Sick and Tired 135 through 6. But where do these lovely animals get their speed and agility as a deer? They're eating grass and berries. Where does the cow get its strength, or the ox, or the buffalo? They're eating grasses. There's that one vegan bodybuilder that can lift a weight equivalent of like a small automobile. And people say he's stronger than an ox. And he always replies, but I did not eat the ox to get this strong. He eats plants. So we talk about just that little teeny portion, like here's a piece of meat. And literally that first bite of this size meat is all that is going to be beneficial for them. 20% is all the benefit they're going to get. And it's literally from the grass that the animal ate. So in a 2,000 calorie diet, there's 50 grams of protein in a bowl of rice. There's 30 grams of protein in a bowl of broccoli. Go figure. We're not lacking in protein whatsoever. So anytime you can direct somebody, the naysayers, the people who want to, argue with you at family reunions and potlucks that you're going to starve to death and you're going to shrivel up and die because you don't get enough protein, you can, show them this slide and say, no, rice has got 50 grams of protein. Broccoli has 30 grams of protein. We're not lacking in protein at all. Now I talk about the liver being able to best handle less than 10 grams, 9 to 10 grams at a time. So that would be a lot of rice for one meal. That looks like a pretty good size serving bowl. But I like to see about 10 grams of protein at a time, preferably. Avocados is not on the McDougall program until you get into the starch solution, where they do incorporate those back a few times. I liken their avocados in the McDougall program to when they use cashews and different seeds and nuts to make their sauces and gravies and things like that, because of the high saturated fat that are in them. So we talk about here on different things about eliminating chronic pain. Samantha can give you her testimony on chronic pain being removed from eating this way. But 9 to 11% of total calories are recommended for protein. Shouldn't be confused with the requirement, which is considerably lower. So people are always asking us about, how do you feel? How do you get your strength? How do you get your energy? How do you get rid of pain? And nightshades are horrible. How can you eat a potato and nightshade's going to give you inflammation? Well, what I ask always, what are you eating with that potato? Let's have that conversation, because it may be something you're combining it with that's causing the inflammation and not the actual potato itself. I suffer from inflammation and I live on potatoes. I'm telling you, I eat more potatoes than any other thing, rice and pasta combined. And I am not having any of those inflammatory issues like I used to have before. So it had to have been something I was combining it with in the past. In a regular plant-based meal, considered vegetarian, if you will, let's say it's a vegetable of vegetables, seeds, nuts, and sprouted grains, it's going to have less than 500 pleomorphic pathogenic microorganisms, in other words, bacteria. Compare that to 37,500,000,000 bacteria in a single egg. And then you can come down here, and 1 cup of milk has 5 million bacteria. A patty of butter is 7 million bacteria. A scoop of ice cream, 225 million. 1 beef pork, go back. 1 beef pork fish serving of 4 ounces, 336 million bacteria. Compare those bacteria levels to less than 500 found in an average plant-based meal. If it's dead, it's decomposing, which breeds bacteria. This is healthy blood on the left. This is blood 10 minutes after eating a meal of bacon and eggs. And it's going to take the white blood cells up to 72 hours to clean that nonsense out. Milk, let's get really graphic with it and talk about the amount of blood pus cells that are in just 1 glass of milk. That will stop you from eating milk and cheese in an instant. If you understand that there are, it's moving on itself, I'm sorry, 135 million pus cells in 1 glass of milk, and we wonder why we're sick. Eat more fruits and vegetables and live almost forever. It talks about how you can increase with just eating 7 or more servings of fruits and vegetables daily, reduces the risk of death and heart disease by 25% and death and cancer by 31%. Kids are the huge target of marketing. These are sold at the local grocery stores, the little, goldfish cracker containers. This little doggy up here, you put your hot dog on it and smash it down, and it dices the hot dog for the little fingers to pick up and dip in the food bowl here for ketchup. I mean, this is so messed up. We should be teaching our kids not to obsess over things. This was bigger than a cake pan. It was like a full half sheet size Rice Krispie treat. This was a box of Nerd candies and Wonka sticks that was the size of a large box of cornflakes or Cheerios, the large box, the one they put on the bottom shelf, huge. And we should instead make meals, like we're sending meals to school for the kids or something, encourage them when they're little. These are fun. These are little containers that are designed to carry carrots or celery or apples to dip and go. And it had a place to put the little sauce on the top and the apples in the bottom. The kids would have just as much fun taking something like that in their lunch pail. All right. We need to just remember 2 things. I don't think you can hear the sound. You're not hearing a sound in the background, I don't think. I've got to go back and find that one as well. But drinking the water, the 3 to 4 quarts a day based on the average person's body size, and eating 50% whole starches and veggies at every meal and every snack. These are some famous vegans, and their bodybuilding and speed and Olympic medals and all these different things. Nobody's lacking. Nobody's lacking for appeal, sex appeal or strength. Mike Tyson says he wished he had been a vegan the entire time he was in his career. Just some names and faces you might recognize. Healthy blood starts with alkaline water, I tell people. And we talk about why we're not drinking tap water. It's like clogged arteries. It's full of just nasty bacteria, and who knows what's dead and dying in those pipes. This was actually one of our pipes from a client in 2011. That is not peanut butter and jelly coming out of that pipe. I don't even want to fantasize about what that might be, but their drinking water was coming through that pipe. So it's absolutely key that before they consume water out of these nasty pipes that we have delivering water to our house, that we purify that. That's why we specialize in the the alkaline antioxidant water systems that we do. And as I mentioned last week, we go on our national tour starting in June and July. We're traveling over 9,000 miles across the nation, north, south, east, west, and everything in between. And if you want to get on the schedule and you want to have a water system installed, we'd be more than happy to do that for you. We're offering a 20% discount. And I don't like to sell things on these lunch groups and stuff like that, but this is just too important to overlook and realize that recently here in Texas, we had a really freak ice storm. It broke pipes. It made it so that people had no water. The water they did have, they had to boil, except for our customers. They were not required to boil their water because we purify it down to the angstrom level, which is 10 times smaller than a nanoparticle. And then we remineralize it with the good alkaline antioxidant minerals too. The single most important thing they can do for their health, and then eating the whole food plant-based diet. So we do that. What else we got here? There's so many things in water. Here's a long list over to the side here. And you'd say, oh, sodium's not too bad, or maybe even a little bit of sulfate. I don't know, calcium. But what about nitrates? What about mercury, lead, arsenic, fluoride, cadmium, cyanide? I actually have 116 toxins that I specifically designed in our recipe to take out of the whole house. How about dioxins from factory waste that have a half shelf life in men, and once a woman consumes them, they do not go away unless it's through the placenta or breast milk. So if you look here at dioxins, and if this doesn't move on me, beef is up here at 38.0, dairy ingestion 24.1, milk 17.6, that would be cheese up here, chicken 12.9, pork 12.2, fish 7.8, eggs 4.1, just breathing 2.2, and soil 0.8. So I think I'm going to take my risk at eating my potatoes and vegetables out of the garden for that 0.8% ratio here. This is total exposure per PG per day, and have less of it than consuming this amount by eating all this animal waste and decay, and just don't get me started. We talk about drinking water 20 to 30 minutes before every meal. And if you're drinking every 2 hours, like I recommend, you'll be right on target for this, because your body has to have a fresh source of water that comes into your stomach, goes through the pancreas and the duodenum and obtains the right pH, and then comes out and forms a mucosous lining in your stomach to receive and digest food. If you do not have water 30 minutes to an hour before each meal, and I like to tell my clients, as soon as you think, hey, I need to make lunch, that's when you go get a glass of water and then figure out what you're making for lunch. So that by the time you get lunch made, that water's had a chance to come in and form that mucosous lining to receive and digest food. Without that, your body has to have that mucosous lining. And so it will start robbing your body of fluids by pulling them from other parts of your body, like your heart, your lungs, your brain. We've known people in the military that have passed away freaky within just a few weeks of retirement. And so you start to evaluate what's different in their life. They're not getting up and getting to the office at 7:30 in the morning like they've done for years for their military career. They're home, they're sleeping in. Their spouses are thrilled, so they're getting up and making them bacon and eggs and hash browns and toast for breakfast. And then they're going out, and for the first time in their life, they're mowing their own lawn. And they jumped out of bed and ate that huge breakfast, and now they're out there doing labor. And their body needed moisture to get to that mucosous lining formation in their stomach. What's to say that that didn't pull straight from their heart, making that labor that they just did out in the yard doing their yard work for the first time in their career, make it so they had a heart attack or respiratory issues? And how many people have gotten their kids out of bed just soon enough to throw a t-shirt on them and a Pop-Tart in their face and shove them out the door? And how many of us remember, even as kids ourselves, sitting in our first hour or two of, school, just like, oh, all days, because we just are in this memory fog from not being able to have the right hydration and electrolytes in our body to get us up and moving in the daytime. So that's a really important key to consider. You can infuse your water and just give it some flavor with cucumber and basil, the raspberries and cucumbers, you know, mint, something like that. I'm obsessing over putting bay leaves in my water. We just did a whole thing on our group just recently. It was shared with us about the benefits of bay leaves, and it's a long list, including reduction of belly fat. Who knew? So it's just a great additive, and I'm really enjoying the flavor. We don't want to drink our water cold. Your body is 98.6 degrees, but ice is 32, your refrigerator is 40. So that being said, if you were to consume ice or ice water, your body has to leave it in your stomach until you burn enough energy to raise the temperature of that water from 32 to 98.6. That's over 60 degrees. Think about that for a second. Your body has to increase the contents of your stomach by 60 degrees before it can leave your stomach. If it were to leave your stomach at 32 degrees, it would hit your pancreas and you'd fall over just like that. It would just lock you up. So it has to stay there, which means that water's staying in your stomach longer than we wanted it to, just to get to the right body temperature. Well, then you've added more food, you've added this and that. Thank goodness we're not eating meat and fat and oils right now, or they would solidify. Kind of like picture back in the days when we used to make bacon, and the bacon would be, you know, all crispy or whatever, and we'd serve it. But when we finished eating breakfast and went back to clean up that pan had lowered in temperature, cooled off at least 20 degrees, and now it has solidified. And we have to scrape it out of the pan and throw it in the trash. So what's to say the difference in our body temperatures, especially when you think about animals in general? A cow's temperature is 118 degrees. Ours is 98.6. We've got a 20-degree difference between a cow's temperature and ours. So their food is another example of why it's not for us. 20 degrees different, taking it from that to us is going to make it solidified, just like that grease that coagulates and gets all white and nasty inside of a pan when you make bacon, if that makes sense. So I'm not a proponent of cold water. Very rarely will I do that. I do make nice cream out of frozen bananas and frozen berries. I'll blend that up, but that's a rare occasion. And I'm eating it so slow. It's like, you know, it's going to still be too cold. I would be honest, it's still going to be too cold, but I don't do it all the time either. So warm is better, room temperature. Talking about the benefits of alkaline water. And not all water's the same. There's only one water in the entire market that I've been able to get even a close to zero on, and that was Evermore, and it's extremely expensive. But I want a negative 600 to 800 millivolts of antioxidants in the water. Oxidation reduction potential is what we call it. What's the difference we want a higher pH, and we want a very low, strong antioxidant. And that is brought on by reducing that oxygen potential so that we don't rot and decay. We're kind of like apples and avocados that turn brown. We don't want that rot and decay. Robert Earl Keen, the famous musician that I'm sure several of you are familiar with, he's one of our clients. And if you go to our website, it's got his quote. I just love it. He says it's his Ponce de Leon fountain of youth water. It's really cute. So as we move on, the different clusters in the size of the water, regular water, your blood cells are only 7 micron, but regular water is 20 microclusters, whereas our water is only 5. So it's like throwing blueberries through a chain link fence rather than softballs at a chain link fence. It's going to hydrate much better. Different waters, you can see how the Monster drinks are, if that didn't have the creamy flavoring in there, it would be red on the far left to the purple, which is alkaline on the far right. All right, the green smoothie girl even talks about that. All right, salt, we don't want white salt ever. We want pink, brown, green, blue, red, orange, black, but never white salt if we're using salt. And we talk about it on the pH scale like it's grandpa at a family reunion. And sodium is number 11 on the pH scale, but if you take it out, you can't donate protons to make the right amount of magnesium or the right amount of potassium or the right amount of calcium for your person's body size. And we can have a whole discussion about that when you call for your free phone consultations. All right, different things like that. And I want to wrap this up with just the last little scenario here. Here's the pH scale, 7 being neutral. And each step below that is at 10 times exponentially. So by the time you go from 6 to 5 to 4 to 3, by the time you get down to coffee and soda, you're at 100,000 times more acidic. Same thing going the other direction. As you go higher from 8 to 10 and 9 to 10, you're going to up to about 1,000 times more alkaline when you get to our water at 9 to 10 and a half. But coffee and chocolate started out at 2.0, but go to a negative 25. And man, I hit the wrong button. Sorry about that. But they go to like lemons start out there too, but lemons go to 9.9 when you consume them. Whereas the coffee and soda went to a negative 25. You've got cucumbers that start out at 3.0, right the same as where soda and Gatorade is. And soda and Gatorade, however, go to a negative 18 after you consume it. And then you've got the cucumber that started out at 3.0, and it actually goes to, as we saw earlier on the shopping list, it goes to 31 point, where is it? 5, okay? Then you can also look at a science experiment where you've got 3 beakers, and you've got the same food in every single one of these beakers, okay? And in the first beaker, we put just acid. What happens when you put just acid in a jar full of food? It will actually just dissolve it. If you watched enough NCIS, you can put a human in a barrel with enough acid and dissolve them too. That's gross. Same thing with alkaline, but if you put both of them together, alkaline is above 7's alkaline, below 7's acid. It literally just cancels each other out. Now we've got all the burping and farting and bloating going on. It's miserable. So let's talk about veggies only. It takes, if you just had veggies only, it takes 2 to 3 hours for them to break down and leave your stomach. Veggies and carbs, 3 to 4 hours. Veggies and proteins, 4 to 5. But if you mix them all together and you've got meat and protein in the same meal, you're looking at a difference of about 8 to 24 hours before it's going to actually break down and leave your stomach. And that's, by then you've added another meal or two. You've added all kinds of stuff. So now we're getting into the marketing side. So we'll just go ahead and pause that for now. Let me get that out of there. So that's some of the things that we wanted to talk about. There was one other thing. I think that was the last illustration. Yeah, that was it. So let me just take this off of share and open it up for questions. But I talked a little fast, so I saw a lot of glitches with that. I didn't realize that some of those pages were still self-animating, and so they were going a little faster than I was talking. So it is at right now 2 o'clock. So that took a good chunk of time there, and I appreciate you hanging in there for me with that. But any questions on what you saw today? No, you're all educated and perfect. Yay! That's awesome. All right, guys. Well, it is 2 o'clock, and my guys have gone and got the registration on their cars, and they're back already. So we have to get some other errands run this afternoon. But I want to thank you all for joining us every week like you do. You guys are the best. I absolutely love our group. I check my phone several times a day to see who's posting what, and you guys are doing a great job. And we are all looking so good and so healthy. Who is loving this way of eating? Raise your hand. You know, I mean, this is us. We really just love this. So Linda, you did pop in there at the end. Can you unmute and talk to us for a second? Are you there, Linda? Linda's one of my local clients, and she doesn't get to get, she's not on Facebook, so she only gets what I text to her, or hopefully her daughter's feeding her some information. But Linda, can you hear us at all? She may have stepped away. All right, until next week, hopefully she'll join us then and we can talk about it. But until then, you guys have a healthy, happy, starch, veggie filled day. All right? Thank you. Bye now.